So welcome back, episode 52. And we're out here. Invisible Creature. We got Don and Ryan. Thank you guys for having us.
Of course. Thanks for coming out here. Beautiful day.
Beautiful.
It's amazing.
Day. I know.
Beautiful Pacific Northwest day. So,
we were just talking about, I think we had, I don't know what it was, 30 days of rain or some bullshit, and then you finally get the sun. And
we're being teased with spring.
Exactly.
Yeah. Little summer fake out.
Well, this is when friends come and visit this time, if it's nice out, this is when they're like, we should move here. And then they move here and they're like, we should move back. Yeah. So
totally. Exactly. Well, cool. Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah,
and we're in the famous barn. Nah, this thing is sick, man.
No, thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's labor of love. When we first found this place, we weren't necessarily looking for a farm, but my wife, we wanted some land, and I drove out here. She had already seen it. And it was vacant, and I just walked up into the barn. There was like just a ladder that went up here into the area that we're sitting in right now, and I was like, "This is pretty dope. Like, I could actually work here the rest of my life." So yeah, we bought the place, and it's been 10 years of just renovation, working on stuff, and the barn's been done for about 5 years.
That's cool.
So yeah, very blessed.
No, it's cool. And on our drive up, we were kind of talking about how you guys have made this like almost a mascot of the company in a way. You have the Eye Creature dude, which is amazing. You have that IP, and then you've taken this as well, which is rad.
Yeah, totally. And that's another thing I thought of when I was up here that first day. I was like, we could make this a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's been super fun. Yeah, we have like wooden blocks of the barn. We have another barn product coming out pretty soon. So it's like, yeah, it's very niche, but it's fun. It's
it's cool. At some point, was there Lego?
I was going to say, I feel like maybe
there is my buddy Zach, we were talking about earlier. He on my 40th birthday, and Ryan helped too.
Kind of
designed a legit version of the barn. It's up here somewhere.
It's like minifigure scale, so it's pretty big.
And then they made he made the Lego architecture box look legit and everything. So yeah, that's a one-off, but there may or may not be another Lego version coming out that will be for sale. So
the version I saw had the sign, off the side had like you two dudes chilling.
I have it in the about section, I think, on the site. If I'm not mistaken. We've made friends with folks that do custom Lego pad printing, and we're able to fly under the radar. You can't say, these are not Lego products.
Yeah.
They're we're using genuine Lego parts, and we have friends at Lego, so we kind of fly under the radar a little bit, but it's super fun. Yeah. And who doesn't love Lego? So
exactly. Yeah. No, it's cool. That's rad. We drove out in our RV, and so we've kind of used that a bit as we'll put on things. We have tees, hats, shit like that. So we've kind of done a little bit with that as well, which is fun.
It's easy to do the classic mascot, whatever animal. So let's do something different, Yeah.
Well, this couldn't be a more inspiring office up here, man. This stuff all around us is amazing.
So sick.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, my dad built the little shelves in the roof line.
Yeah.
He's actually built a ton of stuff in here, but
heck yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's cool.
Super blessed to be able to work here. So,
do you have a favorite piece you would say out of anything here?
I get that question, if the barn was on fire, what would you grab? Yeah. And I just say, let it all burn. I feel like to me, it's the collection. When I I'll go to antique toy shows, and I'll just, someone will have a bunch of stuff out on a table, and I'll just see this one character, it's some shitty skull or something, and I'll $10, I'll grab that. And then I'll go to the next table, and some dude will have a vintage Space Needle or whatever. And it's just it's the whole what sparks joy, right? What's her name? Marie Kondo. It's it just sparks. I have just random stuff around here, and I think that I love kind of nestling it in with the rest of the stuff. So it's really kind of
the randomness of it.
Yeah.
Puzzle
the Mr. Incredible prototype is probably one of my more expensive things I purchased. Piece from 03, an actual mold that was made by Hasbro that they never made.
Sweet.
And I just love the sculpt is awesome, but they never made it.
That is cool.
Yeah, Batman, the 64 Batman helmet.
The helmet.
Yeah,
that's probably my
helmet.
favorite.
That thing's amazing.
This Darth Vader bust is I got that from a dude on Etsy. He makes these amazing like miniature busts of like.
Oh, did he make Joe Rogan too?
Yeah.
That dude.
And I got from my brother. I got
Walter
from Big Lebowski.
Okay.
And it looks like steel, and it's super heavy, but it's resin, and
the way he patinas them
freaking
is really
great.
cool.
Like he does a bunch of different guys. He's got like Jeff Goldblum and.
I've seen that guy's stuff.
Yeah.
Because the Joe Rogan one's kind of trippy looking.
He works with a lot of those comedians.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm just like, in bed at night, I'll be on Etsy just searching for random stuff. So
that's what Nego said, the bathing ape guy and human-made guys. They asked him the same thing, like, what would he? Because his collection, I don't know if you've ever seen it.
A little bit different.
I've seen some of his old like photos of inside of his house.
He's got a car parked in his
car
house.
in there.
Yeah.
And
Like his warehouse. Yeah. There's a new-ish like human-made era video of his warehouse.
Yeah.
And he has like Levi's, one-off Levi's from just the craziest stuff you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he said the same thing, like, what would you grab in a fire or whatever? He's like, I have to have the collection.
Yeah,
like it's not about like this piece or that thing or whatever. It's like it's all of it. It's like having it all together.
I mean, I think in some ways, like you guys came up similar to us, where you started in the music industry and that kind of transitioned. Like we kind of started in the skateboard industry. We still have some of those clients and do some of that work, but transitioned into other industries as well. So
all that we ever wanted to be was artists, both of us. It's all we ever wanted to do was draw and paint and
make stuff.
And that was probably just in our blood. Our grandfather was a professional artist his whole life. Into teenage years, it was skateboarding, and so like seeing all the graphics in that whole world was like a huge draw into that world. And then legitimately taking it up as skating or snowboarding, and then that, by virtue of like the videos and Thrasher and all that stuff, sort of segued straight into punk rock and hardcore and metal. And then next thing you know, we're learning our instruments and being in bands. And then it was sort of putting the visual arts down for a while we got our feet wet with music, touring, doing records. Got really lucky in that regard, got signed, got to tour with a lot of bands, got to meet a lot of people. Moved to Seattle, sort of took a step back from playing music for a minute. A lot of the relationships that we started building within the music industry, whether it was like, friends in bands or people that worked at record labels, started becoming clients because our first love of design, and Don was doing design like while sort of like here and there while we were doing music. So he was getting his feet wet doing stuff for Tooth and Nail or Solid State or whatever when we weren't playing music. So he had sort of a foot in the door. But yeah, there was no marketing. There was no, we weren't actively trying to get our name out there. It was more like, hey, this guy from this band wants to use us to do his new record. It was just connections, really natural, really organic, and it just kind of just perpetuated. And then before we knew it, it was small bands that we had done became sort of calling card projects for us, or packages that were really a lot of people talked about and liked. And so we would get the major label call, and then we would do a few records for them, and that art director would sort of move to another label, and then we would start working with, and then it was before we knew it was working with any and every label that we could think of, within the metal, hardcore, punk scene especially. It was the golden era of like bands were still selling records. There were still budgets to do interesting things with packaging. Yeah. So we got a really big field to play in. By the time I was working at Tooth and Nail full time, it was kind of like no holds barred in terms of like what we were allowed to play with and do with packaging, because records are still selling. Like he was saying, physical units too, hundreds of thousands of physical units. There was the opportunity to do really cool stuff, papers, inks, die cuts, stickers, do things that were a little bit different. That's one of the things that became like a really big calling card for us, is just like, how do we make the jewel case, which was, at the time that was sort of the standard. How do we make that interesting? Which people, other people like Stefan Sagmeister was really great at, like, when the advent of the CD came out, it was like, okay, so we went from 12 inches down to not even 5. How do we make something interesting out of this? And so that was just every record that came in, it was like, how do we do something cool with this? How do we make it seem like like an experience.
We sat down with Morning Breath a couple months ago, and they mentioned like that when they were doing music packaging, like the budgets were huge.
Yeah.
And he's like, now it's like half, a quarter of what it used to be. You know.
Totally.
Yeah. He's like, we could have so much fun with the printing, and it was like unlimited and go nuts. And
Well, if you go back to 70s, like Storm Thorgerson and Hypnosis and like those Led Zeppelin budgets were insane. You know, it's funny how like you would think that things would, appreciate or go up. Yeah, it's
And back then, he would, Storm in particular would do most of that stuff for real.
Yeah.
So like
it wasn't even
stuff that
Photoshopped.
looks photoshopped or looks, faked. It's like he would fly to a location to shoot an album cover. He would find this particular tree,
which maybe explains the larger budgets, I guess.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, being able to do that is it's it over the years it just sort of it dwindled, and then like 2013, 2014 is when we really felt like the crunch. 8-page booklet, no special colors, no special inks, no
And now vinyl, 2023 vinyl's outselling
everything.
It's like wild.
Which is fun, and
That's
it's
cool though.
Yeah.
it's doing well enough to where like those gates are starting to open up a little bit. I'm doing a lot of deluxe edition stuff, a lot of anniversary stuff. So getting to sort of take the chains off a little bit and like have fun, like conceiving of interesting things to do.
The cool thing about posters, especially with bands, is like the concept can be a little bit more playful than if you were like doing it's like it's either playful or you can get real niche with it, and it's one thing that you have to worry about, and there's a lot of times like no art direction. And so we were just pumping out silkscreen posters and riding that wave and going to flat stock, and music fans or buying the posters or if they're designers would go get jobs at Target or in-house somewhere and hire us to do stuff for these larger companies. And so the posters are what got us we're able to help get us out of where music was going, music design, which we just couldn't make a living in, doing packaging forever. So.
And the posters were a unique calling card because, like he said, if someone's working at Nike or working at Pixar or working wherever, chances are they're not going to have a stack of our CDs on their desk.
Right.
But it's very likely that if they like our stuff, they're going to have posters or prints or whatever in their office. And then, they see it, other people see it. It's a constant reminder. And so, even though we were doing at the time, we were doing a lot of these posters for free or at a deficit because we would print 200 for our own, and sell maybe 20 of them. It was just a total labor of love, and just doing it for the freedom of being able to do, like you said, very little art direction because most of the time we're working with promoters and not the artists themselves. So the promoters didn't really, as long as they had a good looking poster to promote the show, they didn't really care what the specifics of the image were. That allowed us to be really creative and do things the way that we would like to see them. And then that sort of, as we all know, generates better work in the long run.
For us, it was like skateboards on that side, as far as designs, clients would have them or be like, hey, we want this project and we want it to look like this set of skateboard graphics you guys did or whatever, and the freedom was there a lot of times on the skateboard graphics as well, where it was super fun. Same time, the pay has always sucked on skateboard graphics, but the freedom and us just, being into it and knowing that industry, opened up doors for other industries.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's kind of organic though. It's not forced, because we'll get people that are like, well, how do I get into like designing for the action sports industry or skateboards? It's like, you really don't.
We'll speak in events and students will come up and that is, and you guys get it too. It's like, how do I get into that? And they're, early 20s. I'm like, I think it's too late. Like we were 15 going to shows, it was an obsession. And so there was, and again, like I always feel like because neither one of us had a plan B, it was like, we're going to do this. Like, I think if you do have a plan B or like, if the art thing doesn't work out, like you're not going to actually just dive in and do it. And, at all costs. And I think like that drive for us was everything,
Yeah, a lot of our followers are more of the students that are trying to become designers and less of the clients. And, there's not too much work to get there, instead of, if we could actually reach the clients, wherever they're at, instead of like, the up and coming kids that are hyped on us. It's just different. Those numbers,
I think that's the different, and that's why I always say you need a website because the social media is going to be your fans mostly. You'll have some clients on there. Totally. Some people will see your work on there and hire you, but generally speaking, unless you we have a store, so Instagram helps with that. But it's kind of like other designers. So like creative directors that are calling are going to our website. They're going to look at our portfolio and stuff. So yeah, you bring up a good point. Like, trying to market, there's different buckets of marketing and who's watching your stuff and who's actually paying you. Like the majority of our revenue comes from larger companies looking at our website, not not social. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I will say, and I despise social media, but I will say that we have heard from, just because of the sheer amount of time that we've been doing it, we have heard from a lot of people who were young design enthusiasts or students or whatever that made it through that whole process, whether it was school or whatever, interning somewhere, and now they're AD at some, at Nike or at Adidas or wherever, and now they are hiring us, So it's like, if you give that a little bit of time, some of those fans can become clients, and we've seen it happen several times.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, totally. One of the things I love about this job is just meeting cool people. Like, you guys just cruise out here and we're having this conversation, it's like, and now I'll know you guys forever. It's like, and a lot of my clients or a lot of my friends are like clients, and so I love the personal relationship in this job. I never know who's going to call, like, meet some, someone that works at a cool company you never heard of, and you're like, rad, yeah, let's work together, whatever. So yeah, it's not like, I think you guys probably see this too. It's not, I don't turn off the work mode doesn't end. It's like, this is my job, and I'm blessed to be able to like make it into my whole life, in a healthy way, I think. So
for sure.
Yeah.
The IC friends. So let's talk about that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You guys had us do a shirt, which was super
awesome.
Cool. Yeah,
loved it. Such a great. Who designed that one?
Brandon did.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So Brandon's been with me
15, 16 years.
Wow.
16 years.
Okay.
Dude's so good. He's the backbone of everything visually we do.
How did you guys figure out who was going to do it?
Your guys' style, just the creature and everything, just right away was just like, Brandon's got to.
Usually briefs come in and you just know right away.
Cool.
We have a handful of them, and it's like, this one's for him, this one's for him. It's just
happy to have you guys on board. It started in 2020. I was actually laid up on my back for a couple months, a herniated disc, and I was just like out for a while, and I was miserable, and I was thinking of like, just, when you're laid out or whatever, you're depressed, and you're also thinking about all the shit you want to do, right? And so one of the ideas was the IC and Friends project, where I just went out to different artists that I was friends with or just admired, and said, like, do whatever you want with our one-eyed mummy mascot. And so that was the first year, like Morning Breath, and who else was the first year?
All your favorite, anyone who's listening, all your favorite artists.
Yeah. And it went gangbusters. Eric Maranovich, it was awesome, and they all said yes, and it was really cool. And then season 2, you guys, that was awesome. Brett Stenson was the first year. Nice. Yeah. Obviously people know who we are, but they all the people that we worked with had followings, and so like so many people saw it. As long as we can break even on a lot of this stuff, like, we'll do it. It's super fun. We did a pencil set with this Musgrave pencil's been around since 1916 or something, and it flew, and so now I'm like, oh well, maybe we should do some more like pencil or pen projects or whatever, but then like I'll put out something else. And like we did some watches with Vannon. They were awesome looking, but they didn't like move as fast as I wanted. Again, super pleased with the project, but it's like, watches are hard. Turns out people like Apple watches or Rolexes.
True.
It's really hard to predict that stuff.
It is.
And you got to do enough of it to find where that little, so that's a little bit too much money to ask of people. Like,
and it's just real estate for people's walls too. We we have a ton of prints on our site, and our objects always just move way faster, and it's because people are precious about their walls. So if you got a 24 by 36 poster, as opposed to 18 by 24, and
also just seeing where that threshold is. Like I think most people are willing to just be like, oh, $20, sure. Yeah. But when you reach a certain threshold, they have to think about it, and they're like, I don't know.
It's that psychology,
exactly.
Absolutely.
But I mean, case in point, we did this little bootleg minifig that's like our mummy character. We did this a couple years ago. The first colorway we did, I made 100, and it sold out like in an hour. So 100, not a lot. So I was like, on the next colorway, I did 200 and flew like in an hour again. Next colorway, I did like 250 because I was like, well, these are just flying. And nope, it got like right past 125. And now it's like, so sometimes you just don't know. Like I've done 6 colorways of those things, and like I'm going to go back down to smaller runs now because it's like, okay, that sweet spot. I mean, you want people kind of like clamoring for stuff a little bit too. Like we just put out a little bootleg mummy fig thing the other day, a Lego thing, and it moved super fast. And so
sold out, right?
It sold out like in 2 hours, and now I've got...
we watched it and tried to grab it.
Brandon got one. One of our employees got one. Right, the other guy's mad he didn't get one.
But now I've got, a bunch of emails for people like, please, like, do you have any more? And I'm kind of like, well... next time, like, but see, next time, even if I were like, oh, next one I'm going to do 200, it's like, dude, we still not might move those. Like, so,
because you can also like you can sort of draw from that well too much. If it's one thing and you're like, oh, this is proven. Oh, it's proven twice. Will it prove 3 times? And then it starts to wane and you're like, okay.
And it also should be said too, it is more. like I think even with you guys, it's like merch is secondary. So like we're not putting a ton of focus into like dialing in the audience and the numbers. I feel like if we were just making things, we would get a little smarter on.
Yeah, exactly. You could be more savvy.
Sure.
Merch is tough. Usually it's like what you don't think is, I'm like, I'll guarantee this is the number one seller, and it's like always, third place. And
even with graphics, you're like, oh, we got these 6, like this one's gonna kill it, and it's like, no, this one did. Fuck.
Well, even like hats, right? So caps, crowns are just a big deal for dudes. Like, okay, totally. But like dad hat, I don't personally wear dad hats. Usually I'll wear like the wool or like caps like that. Yeah. And then my kids are like, you got to do dad hats. I'm like, well, what? I don't wear those. And then, like, sure enough, I did some and they just fly. So
I'd rather have a dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just all like people are picky about their hats. You know? So
yeah, that's funny. No, that's cool. All right, we got a question for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So number one question, all the kids on Instagram, fighting over it. So Vector or Raster, and why?
It totally depends, man. Like, honestly, that's a good question. It just depends on the project. For me, digitally painting, is much more of a freeing thing. It feels like I'm just drawing more, like pen and paper. Like, there's a lot more liberty in, like, style, I think, when I'm doing that. Vector, I'm very just precise. And, you guys are just kings of that stuff. But it really depends. Yeah.
I don't do as much illustration as Don does, so it's sort of not apples to apples, but I would say like what I like opening more and working in more would just be Illustrator. I think it's a little less stressful for me because it's like I feel like I can navigate it really well, and if I'm in Illustrator, I feel like I have like a directive, like I know what I'm going for. Photoshop sort of has this kind of blank canvas feel sometimes where you're like, I don't even know where to start.
Ironically, I mean, you did some insane stuff in Photoshop back in the day.
And when I have when I know exactly what I'm going for, it can be really enjoyable. But also like if I'm starting like an album cover and there's very little direction, sometimes opening up Photoshop and just staring at that canvas, it's like, totally. Is it photographic? Is it graphic? Is it collage? Is it illustrated? Is it In Illustrator, I feel like I know what I'm doing a little bit more, because usually that means I'm doing a logo or doing a type treatment or doing something like that. So it's a little more focused for me. So I think that's what I like a little bit more.
That's cool.
Yeah, good to know. Good answer. The kids on the internet hate Raster, and they'll die in the comments for if you don't do a Vector,
I totally get it.
Your printer's going to hate
children's books and stuff. So it's like I get it though, 100%.
Yeah. And then usually our follow-up to that is, Cintiq or Procreate or iPad, so we did see the massive Cintiq over there. So
Cintiq when I'm painting for sure. I cannot use the Cintiq when I'm doing Vector. I think some people do. I just, I have to use the pad for the Intuos pad for Vector work. I don't know what it is about using the pointer doing Bezier curves on the Cintiq's weird for me.
But you're still with a pen on a Wacom.
Yes, for sure. No mice. I got rid of the mouse in 2005 or something like that. Yeah. Do you guys work with a mouse?
I use a mouse, but he uses a Wacom only.
Okay. Yeah, I have not touched the mouse. Yeah, probably in the last 15 years. Yeah.
But there's just like you and I, it's like you probably love the mouse, and it's like,
unless I'm in Photoshop doing some weird stuff. But the mouse is nice. That double click on the to get in there, the read isn't the same with the
it isn't.
The
You're
pen.
right.
Yeah.
It takes it's like skiing or snowboarding. Like give it a week or whatever.
Yeah. You got to commit to it. Yeah.
Only time I use a mouse is if I switch over to my music computer, because I will also usually have a guitar on my lap. or be singing or something
Way
like that,
easier
and I
than
can't. I
picking
don't want to
up
be
a-
putting the
Easier,
pen
yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm usually queuing it up like something in Pro Tools or whatever,
Yeah.
and the pinpoint precision of a mouse, being able to sit it somewhere and knowing that it's in the same spot and just going
Yeah,
nothing beats
totally.
that.
That's true.
But in terms of getting around quickly on a computer, if I'm doing design or anything else, it's like the pen is just like lightning fast.
Yeah.
So
Saves the wrist for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'll even travel, and I got a little.
mini.
Yeah, I've
little
got one
mini,
too.
something
Yeah.
I
to
use a
take-
pretty
take
small
with
one.
me. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done big
Do
ones.
you?
I've done small
Yeah.
ones. Right now, the one I use is like it's a little like
Yeah.
8-inch
Do you have
guy.
a smaller Cintiq then, or is it
For
like
traveling.
That? Oh,
for
cool. Okay.
Yeah, I have the big one at my office, and then at home I have the little bit smaller one, and then for traveling I'll take I have like a little one like this. Yeah.
And it's got the screen on it, so it's like not the. Is it the Intuos?
No, it's
Intuos,
Oh,
yeah.
sweet. Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Okay.
the pad.
Yeah, I haven't done the iPad
No,
looking.
yeah. I don't know how
It's like
that
if you're
is.
gonna spend that much money, I'd rather
Well,
just
go
you
big,
have to
yeah.
buy a second software, so
that's
it's more
right.
expensive with all the
Right.
Adobe stuff because
That
it's on
is
the
the-
computer and it's a
Yes.
PC, so you have to like
That's why I
that.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 But I do feel like the bigger the Wacom you have, the better illustrator you are, just because the stroke side, like you're having to do these
It's pretty
really
rad.
long
Yeah.
strokes, which I'm not an illustrator, so yeah, I have a smaller one. To draw the whole dude is like this. The line is smaller
Yes.
instead of having
Totally.
this.
No, I've illustrated a 500-page book on that Cintiq, and it's great. Like, there's been a lot of use for sure.
That's cool.
It's expensive, but it definitely pays for itself. Like, quickly.
Totally, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for having us
Yeah,
out
thank
here.
you guys for
Yeah.
coming out. Thanks
This
for
is
coming.
like, been a dream to kind of cruise up here, and we tried to link up like a year ago or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. No, I'm glad it finally worked out. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I was going to see if you guys could muck some horse stalls before you could leave.
I don't know if we want to get into anything outside there. Like, we'll let you handle that.
Yeah, dude. Well, nice. Thanks for coming up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
absolutely.
Disneyland here, dude.
It
It's
is.
awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
It feels like it for sure. Yeah.
Right on.
Cool. All right, guys. We'll keep killing it, and yeah,
You
appreciate
as well.
it.
You as
Likewise.
well.